Welcome everybody. This today is my favorite topic. Analytics setups, but not just any, but a sinless analytics setup. One that doesn't make you feel icky. What do I mean by that? These days, if we do like the whole tracking shenanigans, it sometimes feels like we are just stalking our users, we're invading their privacy. But this setup that I'm sharing today is gonna give your users and yourself really an idea of just tracking what you actually need, figuring out what's important, and then depending on your privacy sensitivity to adjust like what kind of tracking do I really want to do, what am I missing out on if I don't do the maximum what's possible in tracking, and just I want to help you with a little framework that you can see here how to judge yourself. And based on our last live stream, we're going to dig into the tracking setup that I've chosen for the HabitUp idea validation that I think is very good for most projects in the B2C and the B2B world. We're going to have a little bit of fun here. We're going to work a lot in the Miro board that I've set up for this. And we're going to check out, like, really define what are your tracking needs, how to attain the user consent, make it all very correct. This is, of course, not legal advice or anything. It's just to my best of my knowledge. This is how I would do it. Please don't send a lawyer to my end. Yeah, I'm not responsible for that. That's what you are for. Then we want to have one place where you can manage all of the pixel tracking, Google Analytics and Facebook and everything. And we want to have all the suitable pixels that you need for your job, figure out how to decide what to take in, what to leave out. And then, of course, how to create actionable reports. And as I said in the intro, you can download all of this Miro board that you just saw for free at pirateskills.com/sinless. And if you're already a member at pirateskills.com, then you can just click on one click to join. Everybody else has just to type in a name, an email, and a password. So they get access not only to this, but to everything on pirateskills.com. Let's walk over to the Miro board. Here we are. So in my version of the Miro board, you can actually see two meetups, content of two meetups. What you're going to see is this, the Sinless analytics setup. But this actually builds on top of what we talked about last time. Last time, I showed you the concept of how I validate my ideas with the example of HabitUp, my new habit-forming e-commerce subscription business that I'm considering launching. I'm never launching before I have 1,000 subscribers. So what we explained here is how to set up a funnel with ads. Yeah, like let's say we have Instagram ads that lead to my landing page at habitup.com. We ask people to fill out a survey and then to sign up if they want to stay on board, and then we nurture those people. But of course, we want to know what is working, what is not working. And this is why we need, and why you need, an analytics setup. The whole purpose of an analytics setup is to enable you to learn way faster than if you wouldn't have it. Otherwise, you just have to spend a lot of time and money and try a lot of things and maybe not even discover the hidden gem that you already hit, but you moved on because on average, it just didn't look, the numbers just didn't add up. And this is what we're going to dig into, how to set it up properly. And this is where we move over to this left-hand side. All the three stages that we have are preparation, everything that you can set up before actually implementing anything, then the concrete setup on how to obtain user consent, and then how to report user flows, user data, so you can actually take action and change things to help people convert better, or to choose approaches that might work more efficiently, more cost effective, or simply more helpful for the customer. So what I start with is my tracking needs. So what do I actually want to know? And that defines what kind of tools I'm going to set up, if I do need to get consent from users and whatnot. So I think about those 4 dimensions. I usually want to know a lot about what happened in the acquisition phase. That means, let me zoom in that as well. I want to know, where did people come from? Not only was it on Facebook, on Google, on Instagram, but I want to know exactly which campaign, what keyword did they type in, what ad version did they see. I want to be able to break down the performance of my campaigns to the deepest level, because this is where I learn a lot. I want to know what the campaign costs. I want to get that data. I want to know how many leads I'm generating. In my case, that means people come on the website, they fill out the survey, they subscribe. In your case, it might be that they come to your website and fill out a contact form. It could be them checking out an e-commerce product on your website. It could be your lead magnet, like an ebook that you give them to download. And you want to know, how much did that cost, split down by your traffic channels and your campaigns, of course. And then you want to know, like, okay, how many customers did I get out of that, and what did it cost me, again, based on these breakdowns, to acquire those customers, and what was my return of investment? If I spent €1,000 per month, per week, per day, how much money am I getting back? So that's what I'm looking for in broad strokes, an acquisition. And then I want to know, what are people actually doing? Like, how many sessions actually started? That means people click, for example, on an ad that starts a session on the website. That's simply what nerds are calling that. And then they're visiting multiple pages. And then they might become leads. And I want to know the conversion rate. I definitely always want to have all of the user journey steps that they're taking. Oh yeah, they're surfing the session, then they become leads. I want to know that conversion rate. How many leads do I get per session? How many customers come out of those leads? How many leads converted to customers as a percentage? How many customers are actually staying around for a longer period of time, or how fast am I losing them, depending on the channel. For example, it could be that customers coming from YouTube stay way longer than customers coming from Instagram. I don't know that yet, but it might be the case. I've seen great differences just depending on the traffic sources where I advertised products. And then I might want to know, how long did it take, especially in B2B, this is important, from a lead to a customer. In businesses like pirateskills, I would say, if you join this meetup, it can take 3 to 6 months for you to decide, I want to work with this guy. In e-commerce scenarios like HabitUp, I would expect people to look at this product and decide within 1 to 7 days to either buy it or not. And depending on what your business is like, you want to decrease that time, how long it takes from a person getting to know you, making the first commitment, to actually buying something. So this is the behavior. The behavior is what people are doing. Conversions are what I want people to do, the key actions in that customer journey. For example, the sign-up formula, the filling out of the survey, those are the key user journeys with HabitUp, and I want to know the conversion rates of each step. I want to know the costs of each step. Let's say I spent €1,000. It cost me €1 for people to click. It cost me maybe €5 for people to fill out the survey and give me their contact data. It might cost me €50 to acquire them as a customer. And on the other hand, there is always value. Customers provide revenue. If this revenue was, for example, €200, but I'm spending €50 to acquire them, that is a cost per acquisition of 25%. I can usually deal with that, and my business might work. But it might also not work, and I have to find that out. And I want to know this for each step. Then I want to learn, what is the revenue until now? In e-commerce, people come back later, again and again. In B2B, definitely as well. But since we don't have infinite money, we usually, except in big funding situations, we want to earn as much revenue as soon as possible. Yeah? Depending on the competitive landscape. I heard that Netflix is willing to invest as much as a year's worth of the monthly subscriptions that they are paying to acquire a new customer, because they know that they stay way longer than a year. I, and probably you as well, we don't have such deep pockets to finance Say you have a product that costs 15 euros per month and you're not willing to pay 150 euro to acquire a customer. Yeah, that would be crazy for us. Yeah, we want to make as much money now, but I always want to know, what is my predicted revenue? How long do people typically stay? Why do I want to know that? Because that enables me to be way more aggressive when marketing. I can invest more than the competition probably. Yeah, and then to know that, I need to know the customer lifetime value. The last part of the tracking needs is usually, I want to learn something about the demographics, the interests, different customer segments. How do people in that product line compare to those product lines? How do they differ in terms of geography or mobile users against desktop users? You might be interested in all kinds of things to be able to segment the users and then decide, I want to focus on this audience and I want to get rid of this audience, for example. That is, in short, what I think about. Those are the dimensions. If you are considering setting up a tracking setup like this, go through those 4 categories, and I think that most of you will find those same patterns interesting, the same user steps. Why do I need to do this? If I don't know what I need to track, then it's very hard for me to even make a judgment on my tracking stack or how sensitive is the data that I am tracking. And before we go into the fun and nerdy stuff, we of course have to talk about privacy, yeah, and everything that came with GDPR and our feelings toward that. I've set up simple scale here at the top, from I'm super scared of data, I just don't want to collect anything, to bam, bring it on, I want to track everything up to here. And you get to decide where you want to be on this scale. And here I have 3 dimensions for you with concrete examples in which you can maybe judge yourself where you end up. And this is actually where I made the decision where I want to be in the case of pirateskills. But you can decide like, no, I don't want to do any tracking at all. So in general terms, this is the first category. In general terms, if you say, no, I don't want any tracking, let's go blind, that's you. You don't have to worry about all of the GDPR stuff. Just make sure you're not accidentally firing any cookies on your website from your web server or whatever, and you're good to go. Yeah, you don't have to worry about this. You can skip this meetup and join the next one. If you say like, okay, I need at least some user behavior data, but very little PII, personal identifiable information. This is stuff like the email address, the full IP address, user ID, gender, birthday, those kinds of information. If you can say like, okay, I want to see what they are doing, but I don't need the personal identifiable information. You're like on this middle ground and you can do a lot, but you do not get the full transparency and optimization that you can do with the full extent of tracking. So of course I'm like in between. Currently with Habit Up, I'm thinking I don't need that much personal identifiable information beside the email address. So I'm leaning towards the middle here. But if you feel like you need full transparency, the most competitive advantage that you can get, you're probably going to have a full tracking setup that I'm actually going to show. So in terms of the user behavior data, if you say, okay, I'm cool with just the information that I get from my CRM and the backend database, like people signing up for my service, and it's cool if I know that. I don't need to know what they have been doing in between and don't need to have it in a nice dashboard. Then you're probably good with the no tracking part. If you want to see user actions, and you probably have to use a tracking tool like Google Analytics, like Matomo, to see that. But as soon as you go, for example, e-commerce routes, and you want to track proper payment information, you are already in the full package because the transaction ID is considered personal identifiable information, because with the transaction ID, you can identify a customer, and that is usually one of the strong signals that users have to consent for that. Yeah. So you're already in the whole package if you do any kind of e-commerce tracking. Then, if you're doing advertising, this is the last dimension. If you say, I just need to know how much I spent, how much people clicked, and the click-through rate, and the CPM, then this is good. You are still in the you don't need any additional tracking tools area. But as soon as you want to be able to actually see what is happening after a person clicked in your service, let's say they click on the Instagram story or swipe up, they land, you want to know how many people actually became leads, not even the personal identifiable information behind that. If you just want to know that, then you're already in the middle ground. But if you want your ad campaigns to be fully optimized, to self-optimize, to have this machine-to-machine learning, meaning the pixel on your website sends a direct signal back to Facebook or to Google or to TikTok, and those platforms start optimizing who is going to see your ad. Yeah, in real time. This happens immediately. This is not, okay, I'm looking at the report and then I'm making a manual change. No. If you're not actually having an advertising pixel on your website, you cannot do this. Yeah. So if you are in e-commerce tracking, or if you're committed to do this fully optimized ad campaigns, you're already in the full bring it on mode. Yeah. And I guess lots of you are going to end up there. And I hope this showed you what you're losing. You're losing e-commerce data. You're losing the ability for the campaign to self-optimize. You're losing the ability to give yourself full transparency, which is totally fine. As you can see here, I'm absolutely willing to make compromises. I try to collect as little as possible, but I'm not giving up my competitive edge. This is why I ask user for consent, and how I do this is going to be a big part of this video. So that's the privacy. So now we know where we end up. I can make the decision to build a tracking stack. Yeah, I know I have my most important conversion events, people who submit the survey and people who sign up with their email. In your case, it would probably be a purchase event or a customer requesting a call with you. So what needs to happen first? People need to be asked for, do I want this? Do I not want this? The cookie consent. This is how this looks like. Yeah, you've probably seen this on hundreds and thousands of websites by now. Those beautiful banners that ask you to either accept or reject or just save the current settings. So I recommend doing this through Borlabs. I've decided to use this. Only once this consent is given and people want to be tracked, and I can tell you, if you set it up right, you should see higher than 50% consent rates. I sent that signal to Google Tag Manager, which is a place where you can manage all of your pixels, from Google Analytics to the Meta pixel from Facebook and Instagram, to the Google Ads conversion tracking, TikTok, Pinterest, whatnot. Yeah, you can even implement your chat software, your support software, or some pop-ups on your website through Google Tag Manager. It's a beautiful place to manage that. And if you connect your cookie consent and what people actually consented to and whatnot to Google Tag Manager, and I'm going to show you how, you will get the control of, yes, I want to fire Google Analytics, but not the Meta pixel because the customer decided. And this thing alone should make you feel less icky while tracking. If people say, I want to be tracked, then let's track them. They are helping us optimize our service for them. They're helping us to identify more customers to get the same value they have received from the survey. So we don't have to feel bad about it if they consented. But if they at any point decide to change their settings here from your cookie consent tool like Borlabs, this will deactivate any kind of tracking from those tools, and they will not be tracked any further, and they still got their right to rectify, their right to delete, and everything stays intact. The second path that I'm choosing is just independent of the personal identifiable information. I want to get all of the data, like my sign up data, the survey data, into a Google Sheet that then I visualize in Data Studio. So I take all of that data plus the survey data, put it into Google Data Studio as a single place where I get to see the performance of my campaigns and make my decisions on what to do more of and what to do less of. I hope this was understandable how the user flow and the tool flow works. You can prepare all of this before you do any kind of implementation. Now we need to get into the setup. And warning ahead, this is nerdy AF. Yeah, but once you get this done, it's very rewarding. It doesn't make you feel as icky as some other tracking setups do. There are lots of websites that just fire all the cookies without asking for consent. And with this, you no longer have to be one of those, yeah, or not track at all. So let's dig into the setup that I've set up in two parts. First of all, collecting the consent on Borlabs cookie, and then doing the tag management stuff on Google Tag Manager. So let's look into this. What job does this tool have to do for us? First of all, you see what this looks like. It is supposed to, the main job is to get compliant consent so that you do not get an evil letter from a lawyer telling you like, you violated my client's rights, I'm going to sue you. You want to try to avoid that. The problem is that those laws keep on changing. For example, where I'm not certain, recently there was a change that we were not allowed to highlight the accept all anymore. But is it okay to have those three colors which match the color scheme? Or is the lower contrast on the only essential cookies already a reason for somebody to send me an evil letter? We have to find out. Yeah, I do this to the best of my judgment, and that's all we can do. Yeah, those tools like Borlabs cookie, they help us keep up to date. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known that seemingly you should tell people who are under 16 that if they wish to give consent, that they have to ask their parents, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. But as long as this is necessary to be compliant with local law, that's what we're gonna do. The second job it has to do for the user and for us not to get fucked is that it suppresses all kinds of cookies before a user has made a decision. You can always check if a website, and that means any lawyer can check, if cookies are being fired before users have consented. This is completely transparent to the outside. Don't make a mistake of thinking like, oh yeah, I can get away with that. You can get away with that for a while. Yeah, but it's gonna get worse and worse and worse. And those two jobs need to be fulfilled by those tools. And you can choose any tool you like as long as it gives you a good compliant consent rate. So what I'm using in terms of tools is Borlabs cookie in combination with EOBender. Borlabs cookie is the cookie banner, and EOBender I use to create my privacy policy. If you want to look for alternatives, there are a ton. If you go to G2, to the link I provided here, it shows you saw the cookie banner, that was fun. It was ugly, but fun. You can see a lot of tools that you can segment for different markets that you can choose. So Cookie Yes is here. Quantcast is not bad. User-Centrics is my favorite tool outside the WordPress world. If you're on WordPress, I highly recommend Borlabs. If you're not on WordPress, check those guys out. They recently bought CookieBot as well, which was very popular in the dev community. And you can see that there are tons of solutions. The only thing that it needs to do for us as marketers is to enable a high acceptance rate. Imagine this. You get 100 people to your website and only 5% consent to your cookie banner because you put it way down there below. Then you cannot track anybody. Your fancy tracking setup has just suddenly become absolutely worthless because if people do not consent, you get a very low percentage of people that you can track afterwards. I would say if you consistently get more than 40-50% of people to accept your cookies, you get very consistent tracking data, and you can simply multiply your results by the missing part of your consent rate. So if only 50% consent, you can multiply your results by 2. The way to get to that 50% consent rate, and this is where new laws have been introduced because we marketers keep on trying to abuse the system. I'm going to show you a really fun example in a moment. What I do is I put it in the center of the screen, mobile and desktop, not at the bottom, not at the top. They have to make the decision anyway, so I put it in front of their face so they do it. I darken the background, or I've seen a solution where it gets blurry, which is really beautiful, and I make sure it looks really good on mobile. That gives you the plus 50% acceptance rates. I have customers who have 80% acceptance rate. On pirateskills, we currently have 60% acceptance rate. Well, let me show you the fun thing that I saw recently. This is a German magazine that is very famous. It's called Bild. Look at those motherfuckers. It's amazing. It's amazing. They give you only the option to accept everything. And if you do not want to get tracked, you get to pay their $3.99 service per month. This is so weird and genius at the same time. But I can tell you, this definitely makes me feel icky. But we don't have to do this. We just give people the option to save. I just thought this was funny. I wanted to share it with you. So people always keep on pushing those boundaries. This is why lawyers keep on having and judges keep on having to explain it to us marketers more and more precisely what we are allowed to do. So that's the job it gets to do. Here is the concrete setup how I created this. So you install Borlabs on your website through their cookie plugin for WordPress, and then you get to decide what kind of cookies you want to enable on your website. What I do, I list all of my cookies in Borlabs. So even if I do not manage, for example, the Facebook meta pixel, I try to train myself to say meta, as you might have noticed. Even if I do not truly manage it through Borlabs, I still put it in there so users get to make the choice. So I list them all here. The most important cookie is the Google Tag Manager. And this is on the first position. You can make a choice between assigning this Google Tag Manager as essential or as marketing tool. Since I only have marketing related tracking tools after this, I've made the decision not to put it into essential, but to put it into marketing as well. This is safer. Some people would disagree and put it into essential because the Google Tag Manager itself, without firing any additional pixel, is just an empty shell. I don't trust this decision. So I'm a bit more careful. I put it here in marketing again. This is the tracking setup that is not supposed to make us feel icky. You might have noticed that I skipped the statistics option. I put everything into marketing. You can have that statistic option, but again, it introduces more options that a customer has to decide on. So, and as long as I'm not forced to separate everything into essential and marketing and media, I will keep it this way. It's good for the consent rate, I believe. Put in all of your cookies so you can see the essential cookies, Borlabs, because we need a cookie to remember what people decided on their cookie choices, which is super weird, of course. But then we have Google Ads, we have Google Analytics, we have Google Tag Manager, Meta Pixel, and there could be more, like your TikTok, your Pinterest, your whatever pixel. You put them all in here, and then you follow this beautiful guide from Borlabs to connect it with Google Tag Manager. Just let me explain it really quick. Google Tag Manager needs a signal for you to fire the Facebook pixel, but not the Google Analytics pixel. In case a user makes the weird decision that they do not want to be tracked by this company, but by that. You have to give people the right to do it. So they need to be able to adjust their settings and to decide, I do not want this specific pixel. This puts us in the shitty situation that we now have to manage each and every pixel on the Google Tag Manager side as well. And I have not found a better explanation. Try to skip the YouTube videos on this. Use this article. It's really great from Borlabs itself on how to set it up. Even if you use a different cookie consent tool, this is a beautiful explanation on how to send it to Google Tag Manager as your source of truth for what's supposed to be fired, what not. So again, they just explain to you, add all of your cookie services, cookie-based services in there. But now you need to put in a special piece of code. And this, what it does is it sends the information, in this case, for example, that Borlabs cookie, there was an opt-in to Google Analytics. And you take the signal and then fire the Google Analytics pixel in Google Tag Manager. I get to that part in a moment. But we need this. We need to go through these specific steps in order to do it. And it's a perfect explanation, and I don't want to repeat myself. This is just way too good to do this. So let's go back here. But what I wanted to do for you is to actually give you my complete Borlabs settings that you can import, how my cookie looks like, and how I grouped and configured my cookie groups. So if you click on this link here, it opens up a text file that you can download to your website, and you can import this to your own Borlabs cookie installation, and you get to use all of my settings. I'm not saying that they are completely legally compliant. I'm not a lawyer enough to make that judgment call. And even lawyers wouldn't dare to say anything that something is truly legal or not at the moment. But I think it's a good starting point for you to get started, and I hope this is helpful for you. I did the same thing for the Google Tag Manager part. So let's move over there. So to summarize, set up each pixel, set it up according to this article that I showed you so that Google Tag Manager has a chance to understand, like, oh, I'm supposed to fire this one, but not that one. Now, what does this mean on the Google Tag Manager side? And to make this a bit more clear. So what is the job of the Google Tag Manager? I want the Google Tag Manager to be treated like the hub for all pixels. I don't want my developers to implement this and that, and then I decide to get TikToks and I get to reinstall all of the stuff again for TikTok. No, I want one central place where I can manage as a marketer all of the pixels. Your developers will appreciate it because it saves a lot of time, and you will appreciate it because it speeds up the process of, for example, being able to decide tomorrow I want to try a TikTok campaign. You get going. Update your privacy policy through EU Bender, update your Borlabs cookie, update your Google Tag Manager, on you go. Yeah, you can do this in 30 minutes. Otherwise, you're talking 3 months to people and wait for another month for the dev pipeline to get you to the TikTok pixel. As you can see on the right-hand side, those are all my tags. I'm going to explain to you what they are, but essentially I'm telling here Google Analytics, fire, but only if people have consented on Borlabs cookie. Yeah, that is this. It does this for us on a business level, and on the technical side, it fires only after people have consented, and it respects users' choices. So if they make the weird choice of setting up individual cookie settings, they respect that, and it remembers the decision of the user until he changes that decision. Yeah, or a certain number of days have run out. So that is the job here of this tool. You do not have to use Google Tag Manager. Now that's my favorite. I have a true other favorite, the Matomo Tag Manager and Matomo Analytics in general. Matomo used to be called, I actually forgot how it was called. It was pretty famous. It still is. It's a big Google Analytics alternative. They even put it in that, I thought was really ballsy, to say on the title here on the main website, Google Analytics alternative that protects your data and your privacy. So if you think all of this, Ben, That's already too icky. And you very much end up on this part of that decision tree. Yeah, and you say like, not I'm scared, I'm messing with you. Yeah, but I want to be super privacy focused. Then this tool, Matomo, gives you everything you want, except for this machine-to-machine learning I explained with the Facebook pixel, the meta pixel that then talks back to the campaign that helps the campaign to optimize itself. Can do everything but that. Can even do session recording, yeah, that you can pretty much watch over the user's shoulders while they're surfing. And they even have, and this is the most amazing thing, if you go to the very left end of the spectrum in privacy sensitivity, you can set up Matomo in a way that you do not even need consent. This article makes a very convincing argument why this is true, and they are like the most privacy focused thing. Of course, some lawyer is going to say like, nah, this is bullshit, but I tend to believe them. And I have set up on pirateskills.com Matomo in this cookieless way, and I think cookieless tracking is the future anyways, so that it fires even before consent. Yeah, because I set it up that no cookie and no personal identifiable information is saved there. So if you're into that, they have a great alternative to Google Tag Manager, which is called the Matomo Tag Manager. It can do incredible things on a very private way. You can even host it yourself. So feel free to make your choice there. Now let's say we went with Google Tag Manager. We have to understand that Google Tag Manager has tags and triggers. Tags are essentially, for example, the Google Analytics pixel, a piece of JavaScript that sends information back to the Google Analytics platform and helps you interpret that data. And those are tags. And we need to tell Google Tag Manager when to fire those tags. All pages or just on very specific pages, or if people do certain things. So let me explain that. Let's go to the website. Now we get to make a decision. Yeah, do we want to use those things, or do we actually want to go even into the individual privacy settings and tell Borlabs and Google Tag Manager and me, like, okay, I want Google Tag Manager, that's cool, but I want Google Analytics, but not Google Ads and not Metapixel. Okay, and we make this weird decision. Yeah, and we save the selection. Then only Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager are going to fire, not the Metapixel, not anything else. And now we want on all the pages that this website has the Google Tag Manager to fire. So we have one tag, Google Tag Manager, and a trigger, fire everywhere. Yeah, but just once per page load. But then we have certain very important events, like people starting this survey. This is what I want them to do. If this landing page doesn't get that job done, this landing page sucks. So I need to optimize it. So we click, and I want to send this event also to Google Analytics. And once people went through that survey, I want them to go to this page. Yeah, it's called survey1/thank you. Yeah, and this happens automatically for the customer once they submit their lead information, and then they end here. This is my signal that they completed the survey and that they gave me their contact information. If they don't reach this page, they at some part of the process, they moved out. And of course, people who finish it are more valuable to me than people who do not finish this process. I want to use this positive signal to train my campaigns and to make decisions on the wordings and the styles I use in my ads, to find out like who's actually taking the time to take the survey and give me their contact data. So those two events, the click on the start button and the landing on this thank you page, those are the two very important events. And I do not want Google Tag Manager to simplify everywhere. This is why, let's take this example here. We have Google Analytics 4, the base code, just fire everywhere when you get consent. But if people click on the primary call to action button, fire this tag only when people actually do this. Only fire the thank you page event when people actually land on a URL that contains the word thank you. And I do this for all of the platforms I'm using. So you always see 3 events: the Google Analytics 4, base code, click event, thank you page. Google Ads, base code, click event, thank you page. Old Google Analytics, Google Universal Analytics, base code, click event, page. Meta Pixel, base code, click event, page. Always matched to similar triggers. What are those triggers? One of the comfortable things with Google Tag Manager is once you set up a trigger, for example, a certain click on a button or a modal that pops up on the video that is being watched, you can use it again and again and again, and you don't have to configure it or program it in any way. You can just do it completely without coding. For example, the click button, the button on the primary call to action button on Google Analytics 4. If it's only being fired if people click on any URL on my website that contains the word outgrow.us. That is the provider of the survey. So if they leave the landing page, go to outgrow.us, I know I want to track that, but I want this event to only fire when people have given me consent for Google Analytics. I only want to fire this to Google Ads if people gave me consent for Google Ads. Because otherwise I could make the mistake that I do not load the base tag, but still somehow JavaScript is being triggered, user getting tracked without their consent, you're getting fucked. You're getting fucked. So we don't want that. So this is how I set up my triggers. And then the last part of this, and then I'll leave you in peace with Google Tag Manager, are variables. We need a place where the consent information is being stored. Here, for example, I store the information of Google Ads, Google Analytics, and the Meta Pixel. What did people decide on the Borlabs end? And this article that I just showed you just explained this beautifully. Yes, it will cost you an afternoon to grok it truly. Yeah, it messed up my mind as well for the first time. Yeah, but then it's pretty straightforward. And after you've done that, any further event, any further pixel you introduced is just a 5-minute job of copy pasting and changing just a little bit. Go through this, yeah, survive. If you want another starting point, similar to what I gave you for Borlabs, Google Tag Manager. Imagine if you're not on WordPress and you're using something like user-centrics as your consent solution. And this might still be a valuable starting point. If you click on this little icon at the top, it downloads the JSON file. It's the complete Google Tag Manager container. Yeah, let me show you what it is, where you just have to change your variables. So this is my Google Tag Manager. I've got a shit ton of accounts, so I'll just have to look for the right one. And I made you one special pirateskills idea validation template container in which all of the tags are already pre-set up with the correct Borlabs configuration. Please double check everything for yourself. Yeah, so you're sure that you're compliant and you're responsible for that shit. All the triggers are set up. All the variables are set up. What you have to change in these variables is just put in your own Google Analytics measurement ID, put in your own Google Ads tracking conversion ID, and that the Meta Pixel and that stuff. Yeah. After that, you're pretty much ready to go up to the point where this setup is. And I hope it helps you to have this starting point. I wish I had it. Yeah. And I was wondering, like, why the fuck does nobody provide this container? I would have expected that to see this in a gazillion SEO articles, but here we go. Now we have one good container, I hope. I will keep on improving that, and I hope you enjoyed. Again, if you have any questions about this stuff, we give you the opportunity to ask those questions at the end of this meetup. If you scan this QR code, if you go to slido.com, enter the code R, you will end up here and you will see that you can ask your own questions and upvote other people's questions. I just want to handle the part of reporting, and then we go finish up and end up in this Q&A. All right, hope you survived this. Yeah, this is user consent tag management. Beautiful. 2 templates for you to just grab and use for yourself. Now, what the fuck do we want with all of this data? We want to see reports that help us to make decisions. I usually want to know everything about the user flow, where people are getting to, where they're breaking off. And then I want to understand the user data that I got. So all of the survey data and how they answered the questions. So what I want to do here? So by the way, we did a great meetup together with Lilith from Visual Makers, who are no-code experts. And we created this lead tracking guide where a lot of what I'm explaining in a couple of minutes is explained in way more detail here. And you can just watch it here for free or on YouTube, and you can grab all of those Google Data Studio templates and Google data sheets as well for free. So what do I actually want to see? And what should you be wanting to see if you set up your analytics? First, I want to get a kind of overview. I want to see the main things. So let's take this data. Let's spend 6,000 euro. First of all, I want to know exactly how much have I spent so far, or how much have I spent last week. I want to know how many people acted on my ads, made a click, what that cost me. If I already see here, like, oh, my clicks cost 3 euros, I need to stop if it's not LinkedIn. Yeah, if it's just Facebook and Instagram ads and I'm paying 3 euro per click, it's like, stop, something is going wrong. I'm targeting wrong, or my ads are just crap. And I can stop looking for the problem way beyond the click. No, the problem happened before the click. Then I want to know how many people started the main thing, which is clicking the button and starting the survey, and how many people completed. And what did it cost me for people to complete? So in this case, spent 6,000 euro, 1,000 people completed, and it cost me €5.58 per completion. But this is the very, very, very broad overview of things. The real interesting part comes in the details. We will get to that. The other thing I want to see is a funnel visualization. Like, okay, how many people survive each step and where could I improve? For example, here, 100% of people click and only 33% start. Now I could wonder, could this be 50? Couldn't I optimize my landing page in a way that 33 become 37, become 43? This would be great. And I can set up A/B tests, and we will do this, I think, in 2 meetups, and start experimenting and seeing what happens here. Then 45% of people who start the survey complete it. Again, why is this not 50, not 60? I could be very happy. I could be set with this result. What I want to do is I want to challenge this. I want to see, can I even improve it? But if I do not see the break-off points, I'm not aware where I should even start. And of course, I want to start here, where I lose the most people percentage-wise. Or where I believe, if I have more experience, where do I have the biggest potential of making an improvement? Now that's the funnel view. But this result of €5.58, nice and good as an overall result. But I tell you, a lot of campaigns in this examples were trash. Here's a campaign, €200, where each lead cost €67. Of course, that campaign is going to die. Yeah. Same goes for this campaign with 33, with 50, with €10. Those are my losing campaigns. But there are winners. There are campaigns like this one, where I spent the most money in this example. €1,250 led to 396 leads at €3. That is almost half of what the average was. So what reporting like this and the whole tracking setup allows me to do is to identify the losers, to cut them down or optimize them, and find the winners to spend more of my time and money on. This could be a specific Google Ads campaign that I might be able to scale. This might be a TikTok ad that I wouldn't have never suspected to ever work. Yeah, it might be just a weird twist in the language of your ad that you have been using that moved it from €5 to €3 on average. And if you're not able to see this, you're blind. Yeah, and this is just the middle part of the privacy sensitivity. Yeah, this is not with the machine learning stuff. This is just looking what is working with the action after the click. Yeah, and if I want to, I can go beyond that and have this feedback cycle with the ad pixels talking directly back to the ad platforms. So, and if you're interested in that and how to set this up, this lead tracking guide is good, but I think based on what I showed you, this is already pretty doable, and you do not even have to do a Google Data Studio. If this is a normal spreadsheet on Google Sheets, Excel, that's way good enough. So, but then we got lots of user data. I anonymized the usernames here, but you can see how people are coming in. You can see how they answered the questions, and you can already decide based on the questions from the survey, if you're doing a survey like I love to do, this is working out. I'm getting the correct answers. The product is going in that direction or in that direction. And you can immediately in real time update the answers and visualize them in a way that actually are really meaningful to you. And what you can also see, and what you should be able to see, is where did people come from? And based on this, you can immediately see, okay, IG is doing better than Google search. Not by much, but what I'm missing here is the cost data. And of course, this is in that chart here, where the cost data and the user data comes together. So that's what I want. This is the report. Yeah, the Sinless analytics setup that should make you feel way less icky. And the reason why we did this is to find out what people actually want with this product, how we are supposed to pitch it, what kind of product differentiations they want. And it is also the necessary prerequisite before we can really step on the gas with the ad campaigns. This is something we're going to talk about in the next meetup. You can grab all of this at pirateskills.com/sinless. That is the Miro board, that is this presentation, and those are the templates for your Borlabs settings and cookie groups and the Google Data Studio container as some starting points to get you going with this stuff. All right, that's it for the Sinless analytics setup. If you are interested in seeing what's happening the next time with our Habit Up journey, we're going to introduce you to the Savage channel battle. If you want to see what the most profitable ad is, the best campaign, then we're going to show you exactly, with the help of this tracking setup that we set up, with the help of the funnel that we built in the step before that, on how to make a judgment call. Is it Google? Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok? Is it LinkedIn? Is it SEO? To really set up a grand challenge, and that shows you and your team where you should invest your time and your money. See you then. See you in the next time. Bye-bye.